I've been obsessed with flow states for over 15 years now, studying everything that I can about them, and I've finally put together what I think is the perfect handbook to help you to experience more flow states. And at its core, this channel to me is about the intersection of technology and higher performance, whether that's through learning, peak performance and understanding flow states, mastery, and how we can recover our best. So this fits in perfectly to understanding flow and what we can do to use technology to help us find more flow. And so we'll talk more about all the different parts of the Flow Hackers Handbook as we get into it. So what I want to show you is how to get started with it. In the description, I'm going to include a link because I want to offer this completely for free so that you can learn more about your flow states, what helps you to get the peak of your experience out of flow, and how you can perform your best. So if you're familiar at all, I've built this version of the Flow Hacker Handbook inside of Notion. So what you're going to find is a quick getting started guide right at the top of the page. And this is going to show you exactly what to do. The first thing you're going to need to do is duplicate the page. I'll show you how to do that. And then we'll get into talking about what the different features are within the handbook. So really quickly, I'm going to show you what you can expect inside of this handbook. And then we'll talk about how to create your own copy of it so that you can get started using and tracking your own flow states. The first section is on logging your flow states using the tracker. This is going to provide you with several different views of the data that you're going to collect for how you're experiencing flow and what is triggering flow for you. Not only are you going to get a daily tracker that shows the 10 different conditions of flow states, which ones you're experiencing the most from your flow, as well as which ones you can work on improving and increasing the frequency of experience with through understanding. And you'll also find that there are a couple of different versions of the chart that's going to show you how much flow you're experiencing on a regular basis. Basically, the idea is the more that we can experience flow, the more that we can understand it, the better that we're going to be able to tap into this state that the peak masters are only able to experience, 15 to 20% of the time. How can we spend more time in flow is through building up the awareness and understanding of what brings us the most flow. You'll find with the flow conditions tracker, there's several different views, including the weekly view and the monthly view that's going to show at a glance all of the data for the month, as well as a streak tracker that's going to help you to understand which of the different flow conditions you experience the most and which ones you maybe need to work on developing more awareness of or how to experience more in your flow state. So that's the first part of it. The second part is the flow triggers library, which includes a whole bunch of information on each of the different flow triggers to help you experience those more, as well as to help to build into testing new triggers within your flow states as well. When we open up a new journal entry in the Flow Hacker Handbook, it's going to auto-populate all of those different checks that we can use for recording and logging our experience in the condition. So if I go through and I like to put in here in the top, an entry of what it is I'm experiencing. So for today, I definitely experienced flow during my sprint workout on the spin bike, and there were clear goals to complete it in the time that I had. I received immediate feedback not only through using sort of health trackers like Apple Watch, seeing some of that immediate feedback, but also through how I felt immediately after the state. There was an adequate challenge skill balance there. I definitely had intense concentration on it today. I don't know if I necessarily felt a sense of personal control today. There was absorption into the experience for sure. and there was a loss of self-consciousness, and the time flies by. That's one of the reasons that I like these sprint workouts so much, is time does fly by. It's 30 minutes, but it feels like it's over really quickly. And so there was that experience, and I do enjoy it. So there is the autotelic component of it too. I don't think I would say that there was a lack of awareness of bodily needs for this round. It was definitely a hard workout, so I'm not going to check that one off either. And jot down any observations about the conditions you experienced here, so you can record anything. If you're going to record more details, I also find this is helpful if you're on your phone, because it's not as easy to enter in and change the data up here. So you can record a little bit about this. And then also you'll have a section that's auto-populated in this template for all of the different conditions. If you want specific field notes, kind of like what I just did verbally, you can include it here. And then the third part of the daily journal, or the flow experience journal, because you can include as many of these each day as you want, or as you experience more flow. And so, did you try any new triggers? If so, which ones, and how did you implement it? So for me, I didn't try any specifically today. This is where we build that feedback and awareness with the flow triggers library. If we're learning to understand a new one of these and the different entries that continuously I'm going to expand and build upon, will help you to identify different ways to trigger flow states that maybe you haven't tried before, or you want to experiment with, to see if it helps you to experience higher peaks and see how that results in a greater, result on that specific flow experience, and what it looks like on your chart of the different experiences too. As you can see, that's populated here. If maybe I had like a deep work session earlier in the day that I found flow in, maybe there was like the clear goal to get it done and intense concentration there, you will see that it automatically will populate, and it's going to also base it on whatever time you've updated it as you look at this chart down below. So keep that in mind too, or you can change the date or the time if you want to reposition it on the chart. Now, you'll also find that the chart is shown in this view for more of the long-term streak. This, if you're just using a free version of Notion, is not going to show up. You can only get one chart. But if you've got an old school login email address, you can set up a Notion account that's got more accessibility to more of the features without having to go for a paid account. I use Notion for like everything in my life, so it's well worth having a paid account regardless for me, but see what you want to do and what works best for you. Now, the third part is the going deeper on the 10 flow conditions. So you'll also find that each of these opens up with a full entry on the information around the different flow conditions, so that you can begin to understand them better, what things bring those conditions most to you, and making notes around that. How do you get into a state of intense concentration? What does the challenge skill ratio look like for you, and how do you reach that 4% rule? All of these different factors that go into experiencing flow. It's helpful to build more awareness and reflect and use this checklist to identify which of these conditions you notice the most, so that you can build that feedback loop. Those are the different elements of the current version of the Flow Hacker Handbook. Like I mentioned, there is this getting started guide that you'll find when you first access the link to download or create your copy of this handbook. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to jump over to a different version of Notion that I've logged into so that I can do this demo copy. So when you access the Hacker's Handbook from the link, what I recommend you do first is log into Notion or create a free account so that you can duplicate it. Because what you'll find, and I'm going to delete this one just so I can kind of demo from the start. What you'll find is this version, you can't do anything to it because it's not your version or copy within Notion yet. First thing you need to do is make this duplicate here. Duplicate it. It's going to ask you where you want to send it. You can add it to your private collection here, and then it'll take a second to populate all of the data from the handbook. And once it's done, you'll have your own copy that you can go into, and now you can make changes to this one. So you can label it or whatever you want. I also like to star it so it adds to my favorites over on the side menu with Notion. And then this is going to allow you to start going in and making changes. You'll see that it has a whole bunch of entries populated to begin with because it creates one by default each day. You can turn that off, and in a future video I'll show you, but I think it's nice to always have that running journal so that you can create a log. But feel free to delete all these entries that I created if you have them in there so that it's a fresh start for your own copy. Whatever it is that you are doing and experiencing flow in, you can start creating those entries and start building the data that you can reflect and build upon for yourself. You'll also find that there's two different views with the trigger library. So if you like the card sort of layout and you kind of get that reminder or prompt of what's going on in each of them. I also like the list layout, and I usually like to go in and sort it by trigger type so that it's organized with the different flow triggers in their categories. So that's what I wanted to show you and introduce to you is this Flow Hacker Handbook. How are you going to make use of it to understand your flow states and help you to find more flow? I'm looking forward to hearing all the different ways that you make use of it and how helpful it is. What do you think's missing? This is, I'd say, in early beta testing mode to get some feedback and understand what's working well about it. What would you like to see more of? What could be more helpful? But be sure to download your own copy. I'll include the link in the description so that you can get started on playing around with this Hacker's Handbook and understanding more about your flow states.